It's something that Turkey has been warning about for the past year after the Syrian regime began its assault on the province of Idlib. Dozens of airstrikes and ground assaults by Bashar al-Assad and his Russian allies directly targeted civilians. And according to Human Rights Watch, those attacks violated the laws of war. Haidar Abbasi explains.
Allahu Akbar.
Carnage on the streets of Idlib. This man is the only survivor of an airstrike launched just moments earlier. At least 5 people were killed. It seems there's nowhere for Syrians to hide. They're in constant fear of the threat from above. Civilians not only face attacks from the regime, but also from its ally, Russia. According to Human Rights Watch, these deaths aren't accidental. The organization says civilians are being targeted and that these attacks are war crimes.
What we found is that this is just a very deliberate strategy of the Syrian-Russian military alliance. This war crime strategy is designed to drive out the civilians, to make civilian life unlivable, in the hope that it then will be easier for Russian and Syrian armed forces to recapture the territory.
In a report published earlier this month, Human Rights Watch examines 46 strikes in Idlib between April 2019 and March this year. It cites repeated attacks on civilian infrastructure, from schools to hospitals. The report says they represent only a fraction of the military campaign in Idlib. Idlib is the only province of Syria held by the armed opposition. It fell to the rebels in 2015. The opposition once controlled large parts of the country, but since Russia intervened 5 years ago, and with the help of Iranian militants, the Syrian regime has recaptured most of the territory. Syria's Bashar al-Assad has sworn to retake every region, including Idlib, which his soldiers have surrounded. At the start of the year, Syrian and Russian forces launched an offensive to recapture the province. At least 1 million people inside Idlib fled to the border with Turkey, leading to a humanitarian crisis.
We were sleeping when all of a sudden a Russian jet targeted us. I could hear my husband groaning under the wreckage. I couldn't hear the voices of my 2 daughters, my sister-in-law and her daughter, my father-in-law and mother-in-law. I knew they were dead.
Syria and Russia say the operation in Idlib is in response to multiple attacks by the opposition. They deny committing any war crimes. Idlib was subject to a ceasefire agreed between Turkey and Russia in 2017, but that's been repeatedly violated. The regime is slowly recapturing more territory in Idlib. It's not the first time Russian and Syrian forces have been accused of war crimes. But will anyone be held to account? Haidar Abbasi, Straight Talk.
And joining me now from Tallahassee, Florida, is Ali Demirdas. He's a political analyst and an assistant professor of international relations. And from Daha, Fadel Abdul Ghany, who is the founder and chairman of the Syrian Network for Human Rights. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Again, we're talking about Syria's largest opposition enclave. Fadel, what's the latest in Idlib?
Actually, the latest is that the continuous attack is still taking place in Idlib against the civilians, which is threaten at least 3 million population, even if those attacks are just targeting a specific area or cities, but that means that all the population will be terrified, actually, because they don't know which attack will taking place at the next level. We noticed that the vast majority of those attacks are far away from the clashes line. Actually, it's deliberately targeting civilians' infrastructure based on our documentation. The frequent attack actually is referring that those attacks are deliberate. Mm-hmm. That means those amount to be crimes against humanity and war crimes actually. And there is no lead to any investigation is taking place from the Russian or the Syrian regime at all. There is no one at all. Interior investigation, I mean. In spite of that, there is several referral to those attacks in the UN Security Council at the
Yes.
Human Rights Council. So they are aware. Those countries, the head of those countries, they are aware. So the Human Rights Watch report named 10 senior level, accused them that they are directly in charge based on the responsibility of command in those attacks, and they are naming Bashar al-Assad, the head of the state,
Yes.
and Vladimir Putin as well.
So, Ali, it's something that Turkey has been warning about for the past year. What could Turkey do further? I mean, because Turkey is already hosting about 4 million Syrian refugees, and it wants to keep Idlib somewhat stable. But how would it play out if the regime continued to target civilian areas?
Turkey has a daunting task in Idlib, convincing Russia to not interfere militarily. I think we need to understand why Russia is very nervous about Idlib. They're very particularly nervous about the area. There is estimated 20,000 fighters from the Caucasus and Central Asia, which basically concerns Russia. It is very difficult for Turkey to come up with any solution because Russia. It is important to convince Russia not to bomb the area, to stop creating a humanitarian disaster, which has happened before.
Mm-hmm.
So Turkey has to negotiate with Russia to at least create a safe zone in the area, as well as the regime. So in the future, near future, I'm expecting the resumption of Turkey's military incursions into Syria to create
Yes.
a bigger safe zone for the refugees, particularly from Idlib.
So, Fadel, how would this latest situation on the ground, which could maybe eventually lead to another mass displacement of millions of people, impact humanitarian efforts? And we know that another winter draws closer.
Yeah, and that's lead me to other fundamental point that the regime and the Russia is keep blocking also aid for those targeted civilians, and they are also targeting. We record the targeting against the displaced camp as well. So this displacement will keep continue actually. Is taking will keep taking place, and the civilians will still suffer. And I echo also what Ali said regarding that this responsibility not only for Turkey, this is the international community responsibility, both based on the Article 1 of Geneva Convention, that all the state parties should respect and ensure respect. They are not ensure respect of the Russia or the regime responsibility for respect the Geneva Convention. So that lead me to the root of the displacement. The attack against civilians should stop, and the accelerating toward pressure the regime toward a political solution that will settle down the situation. Otherwise, the displacement, the war crimes, and the crimes against humanity, the killing, and other types of violation will keep continue, and will keep noticing that the frustration of people will increase, and we'll keep noticing that the extremist group will feeding from this mess.
So given the latest situation in the region, Ali, is there going to be need for a renewed agreement between Turkey and Russia for de-escalation?
Well, when we look at the history of the agreements between Turkey and Russia in Syria, we see that the Russian party and the regime haven't fulfilled its promises, and those agreements have been repeatedly broken. Therefore, I don't think there is any use of having another agreement with Russia when we know that Russia is very nervous about Idlib, and any sort of agreement is not going to hold. Therefore, I'm expecting Turkey's use of military to resolve this issue. And again, I'm expecting a Turkish incursion in the near future in east of Euphrates, as well as the Manbij area to relieve the pressure of Idlib.
So, Fadel, is Assad drawing closer to his promise to reclaim every inch of his country, of that region? And what's the end game in Idlib?
I don't think that Assad is able to do that. This is his dream actually, and the Russian is keep helping him. But this is not easy at all, and he keep doing that. He keep seizing more territories and land during the previous year, but the situation is in Syria is very complicated due to the economic situation, due to that the lack of military people who's Assad trying to keep recruiting people. So there is several difficulties facing Assad to achieve that, but the attack and the targeting civilians on Idlib will keep continue. Actually, Assad will keep threatening any we can say opposite government or local council who is trying to make livelihood in any area out of his control. He want to show himself that he is dominating the Syria, which is untrue at all. And I think that the Russia is with Assad and Iran as well until the end in this game, actually, until there is a pressure, opposite pressure from the international community with Turkish government and with other side. Americans should engage, the European as well. That means that the suffering of Idlib will continue, and there is no stability at Syria at all, and
Yes.
Syria moving toward failed state actually. As we are noticing, it's divided at three territories, and this dilemma will continue like this for maybe several years ago.
Yeah,
Several years later.
unfortunately, we're not getting strong condemnations from the international community. But Ali, you just previously mentioned that Turkey might intervene in the region again, both in Idlib and the other parts east of the Euphrates. Wouldn't it further strain its ties with Russia?
I don't think so. Russia is aware that Turkey has two main concerns in the area. The first is another eruption of the humanitarian disaster emanating from Idlib, and the second is the creation of a PKK terror state along its borders. And if we today, the United Nations announced that there might be a permanent ceasefire in Libya, and I'm expecting that if that holds, Turkey is going to move its resources and attention from Libya to Syria, focusing more on the solution of the problem. Therefore, I think Russia is going to cooperate with Turkey in its resolving the needs, particularly creating a safe zone for the refugees.
All right, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us on Straight Talk.